There's no one living in this town more determined to defeat the monsters than Boyd himself, but there is an overwhelming amount of evidence that he is the one who brought the entity that's in control of the monsters back to the town in the first place.
Boyd! Destroying that box isn't going to end their suffering. People in this town will suffer. We're all going to die, screaming.
This scene is very important to understanding the severity of the manipulation happening to the people living in this town, because what you need to pay attention to the most is how fake Abby uses hope as more than just a word to describe a feeling. He uses it in such a way that it could be seen as referring to the name of an individual.
Hope is what sent you out into the woods that day, made you leave me when I needed you the most. It knows you won't listen.
And this scene with fake Abby is incredibly crucial to understanding the origin of the boy in white and where he came from. Because what fake Abby was actually talking about in this moment, rather than when Boyd went out into the woods with Sarah and ended up finding the lighthouse, is the day that the real Abby went postal and started taking out everybody in the town. Fake Abby was saying that on that specific day, this being that he calls Hope intentionally manipulated Boyd by appearing as the dog to lead him away from the town and into the forest. But that's not even the most important thing about fake Abby's dialogue in this scene, because what he says here directly ties into another very significant moment in this story.
The boy in white was trying to tell Christopher that it started with the children, but someone who loved them told them a story. The story gave them hope.
Now here is where we get confirmation about who the boy is and exactly where he came from. He is the feeling of the children poured into the roots of the tree before they were sacrificed, made manifest in physical form. He is hope. That's why the boy in white appeared as the dog, so that he could lead Boyd out into the forest to the same place where he ended up finding all of the talismans very conveniently placed in that stone hut, because the boy in white was using Boyd to bring hope itself back to the town.
It's laughing at you for setting it free, for bringing it back to town. It wants to make us suffer.
If we assume that the boy is some sort of physical manifestation of hope, the entity laughing at Boyd for setting it free makes a lot more sense now than it ever did before. Because the entire point of leaving the talismans in that stone hut by whoever did it must have been to keep the people of the town trapped in a cycle of misery and despair. Basically, whoever actually placed the talismans there thought that sacrificing everyone who came into the town and dooming them to being tortured for eternity by these lesser demons was a small price to pay if it meant that the entity, who is also the boy in white, would be trapped inside of this stone hut and could never gain power in the town ever again.
This fucking place. It gives you hope, but it makes you think that you're doing the right thing. It takes it away like it's feeding on your pain.
When you really think about it, what Boyd actually brought back to the town wasn't just a way to keep the Nightwalkers from attacking the townspeople. What he actually brought back to the town was something that hadn't been seen in this town for multiple years, possibly even decades. And it was not the music box or the worms or the cicadas or whatever else you want to say. It was actually this being that controls the monsters, a being that is literally intertwined with the Fromland from the very bottom of the roots all the way to the very tip of the spear. Because what Boyd actually brought back to the town when he arrived with the talismans was actually hope itself.
We're in the diner right now. We're trying to figure out what it means that my mom got out.
What do you think it means?
Honestly, I don't think it means anything. This would make us suffer is to give us hope. Maybe that's why I let her out.
It's not your fear that feeds the forest, boy. It's hope.
Fake Abby specifically says that hope is the one feeding the forest. This line is particularly interesting to me for a very simple reason. The boy in white, Hope, is the one bringing people into the town. This is something that is incredibly obvious because of what happened with Tabitha, and therefore it obviously carries a double meaning when fake Abby says Hope is what feeds the forest, not fear. Because he is the one bringing people into the town to be tortured in the first place. But this line does also imply that the boy, Hope, is not actually the big boss, but that he's actually subservient to this being that fake Abby refers to as the forest. And that kind of makes sense because there is supposed to be an it somewhere in this story that gave the monsters immortality in the first place, and therefore it must have existed before the sacrifice took place. But because time travel already exists in the show, anything is possible at this point. They could somehow still be one and the same. But there's something else I need to show you.
Hi, Jim.
You leave my children alone.
Why did you let Mommy go? Why did you want her to die? You should be watching Julie and Ethan. They're not your children anymore. Where are you going?
This scene gives us some of the most obvious evidence that the boy in white and the entity are the same being, because this voice knew that Tabitha was coming back to the town before she arrived. This implies that whatever this voice belongs to is the same being that brought Tabitha back to the town, which makes sense because it's literally just the boy in white. Like, he's not even hiding it. It's literally just his normal voice. He was literally calling Jim Matthews, pretending to be the dead baby while using his normal voice. That's it. And remember, we know that the being behind this voice is evil because A, he was threatening Jim Matthews' children, and he also says that he now owns Jim Matthews' children. And this same voice was also literally laughing at Jim Matthews right before he got bodied by the man in yellow. So yeah, the laughing in particular directly connects this being that is pretending to be the dead baby on the phone to the being that was laughing at Boyd for setting it free in the ruins and saying that it would make the people of this town suffer. So, and I also want to point out, Ethan is the only character who is still alive that has heard this voice on the telephone, because Jim Matthews got bodied by the man in yellow. So this actually matters a lot, because Ethan has never spoken to the boy in white. So he doesn't know what the boy in white's voice actually sounds like. It's obvious they're setting him up to confirm at some point in the future that the voice on the telephone and the boy in white are clearly the same being, because they are. But watch this video on Victor's dad next, because he's been lying about basically everything.